Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called The Netherlands is a Giant City. Isn't the Netherlands a country and not a city? I don't know, I guess we're about to find out, so let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
The Netherlands is hiding something.
Okay, scary.
You see a country that does everything right. Fantastic bike lanes, trains that work like metros, and parking garages that get millions of views. But the Dutch have a secret. The Netherlands is not a country. It's actually just a giant city. And that changes everything for how we should view it and compare it to others. The Netherlands is the densest country in Europe. Wait, I know there's like 2 people in Monaco that'll get angry, so let me nuance it. The Netherlands is the densest real country in Europe.
Yeah.
See, people are important because they're kind of nice. They make us laugh, love, and also make it easier to deal with the fact that we're all going to die after a cosmologically insignificant short life.
Yes, it's true.
But the best thing about people is that they make it a lot easier to build things. The more people you have on a piece of land, generally the more money you have on that land as well. Put people close together and building gets better. Building a metro to a neighborhood of a city will cost less than building a new metro for every farm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
In dense urban areas, the cost of infrastructure is distributed among more people. The further you need to expand roads, the heavier the financial load.
Yeah, of course.
When people are separated, it becomes harder to share. Now we need our entirely owned supermarkets, hospitals, and schools. Now, density can only help us to a certain point, of course. It's not technically easier to lay a brand new train station in the middle of a city than in the middle of a field. But the main point stands. When we have lots of people together, we need to build less infrastructure to satisfy each other. The more consumers means that more people pay, meaning that you pay less.
Correct.
Infrastructure costs per capita are the highest in low-density areas and the lowest in high-density areas. So when the world asks, why can't we have nice things like the Dutch, the answer is not just more bikes. The Netherlands is actually made up of 2 places, the Randstad and everything else. The Randstad is a cluster of the Netherlands' main cities and covers around 20% of the surface area in the Netherlands, but it is home to around 45% of the population. That statistic is crucial. Almost half of the country lives in an area where the density is around 1,000 people per square kilometer. Half of the Dutch population lives in an area more dense than some of Europe's densest microstates, like San Marino or the Channel Islands.
Okay, those are not real countries. I want to know like a real country.
Compare the entire country's population density as well as the Randstad with the average density in the US, and the differences become even starker. Where the US's average density is around 30 people per square kilometer, in the Netherlands it's 500 across the country and around 1,000 in the Randstad.
Looking at it like that, I'm thinking everyone in the Netherlands is just piled up. Everyone's like on top of each other.
That's no small difference. In the Randstad alone, the Netherlands has a city density with practically half of its entire tax-paying population concentrated inside of it.
That's crazy.
So on the one hand, the Randstad is impressive. Dutch citizens can travel and afford infrastructure that brings them to all of its major cities in like 2 hours via public transport. But on the other hand, it isn't that impressive when that same area is shown alongside the New York metropolitan area. Half of the Netherlands lives in a place that's built more like New York City than the United States.
Good
in
point.
terms of distance, the Randstad's individual major cities can be seen more like individual city districts themselves.
Yeah.
Amsterdam, the business and financial district, Rotterdam, port and logistics, Den Haag, government and international justice, and then you have Utrecht. Nobody really knows what that city does anyway. The Netherlands' trains really are more like oversized, spacious metros. Even cities further away from the Randstad in the Netherlands are not that much further than the distance between Manhattan and the tip of Long Island.
What?
Now, we can interpret this 2 ways. Either the Netherlands is really small,
Incredibly
or
small.
New York is just very large.
It's small.
But when we celebrate the Netherlands' world-class infrastructure, we should understand that things are made easier by the fact that it has a lot of people, and those people seem to not be that far away from each other.
Yeah.
But the Netherlands, with all of its beautiful density, isn't perfect. Being a giant city also brings giant city problems.
Like what?
Even within the country, there are large public budget productions discussing whether the Netherlands is filled with too many people. The Netherlands may have a lot of
Incredibly funny given the fact it's a country that has like what, 5 million people? 6?
bikes, but it also has the most personal cars per square kilometer, with the exception of Malta. Density may bring reduced per capita infrastructure costs, but density can also bring worse air quality. European cities have a dirty secret. Thanks in large part to denser living, few towns in Europe can match the air quality of similarly sized places in America.
What?
And the
Europe's
Netherlands
worse?
is no exception. One of the densest places in Europe, the Netherlands has some of the highest rates of European children with traffic-induced asthma. Of course, there are important caveats to this. The Netherlands has a massive seaport and airport, but the Randstad, with all of its beautiful interconnected features, like a giant dense city, remains one of the most polluted areas in Europe. But density isn't the only thing that makes the Netherlands a giant city. It actually goes even deeper. Back in around 4000 BC, some
Okay.
humans noticed something.
What?
Land close to water, good. Food grow good in good mud. But
Yeah.
Urk can't do everything on his own. Better Buruk put seed in mud, and Urk take food out mud when mud turns seed into plant. Good. Now we have a lot of plant. Too much plant, but more food for Urk and Buruk. We build mud hut for Urk and Buruk children, and some get bigger mud hut. And to carry mud and plant to mud huts, we need water near plant. So we build more mud hut on waterland flat. But Urk see problem. Too many Urk and Buruk child, not enough plant or good water land.
Yeah.
Land dry, Urk angry, Urk have big thought. Urk change mud in water, and Urk can make more flat water land. Now more mud hut and more plant. Urk and Buruk die. Urk and Buruk child sad. Urk and Buruk parent time short.
This is dramatic.
Wish they spent more time. Tell Urk and Buruk parent they were loved.
Oh my god.
But time make Urk and Buruk child but time make Urk and Buruk child learn. Urk and Buruk child show love to gone parent
Oh
by
my
doing
God.
the same. Build
Okay.
more flat water land for more plant and mud hut. And their Urk and Buruk children do the same. Early civilizations were built on river valleys and great irrigation projects. They came with fertile land, provided easy transportation,
Yeah.
food sources, and also fresh water. They were also built in valleys, which had a major advantage. They're flat. The Netherlands is not only dense like a major city, but the entire country is essentially a gigantic river valley, the place where
How many rivers does the Netherlands actually have?
urban development was born. It has some of the highest soil fertility in the world, partially inherited from its vast river system,
That's
and its
lucky.
intricate canal network provided easy transportation throughout its history.
What's the difference between a canal and a river? I think I do not know the difference.
Improved trade, and eliminated one of the biggest bottlenecks for good infrastructure in small but dense countries: the lack of resources. They're one of the flattest countries in the world, which helped remove a variable that produces high construction costs,
Flat.
variations in elevation. So when we look at the Netherlands, it's important to remember something. It has trams with the agility of taxis, windmills that work like house fans, and neighborhoods built for walking. But the Netherlands has a secret. Not a secret that other countries can't follow or copy. Many places should be built like the Netherlands, but
They
choose
aren't.
instead not to. But to be like the Netherlands, it's important to be built like the Netherlands.
That's
And
correct.
the Netherlands is not built like a country. It's built like a giant city.
Okay, I think this was very interesting. Once obviously they laid out the groundwork, I'm like, okay, I get it. Why it's a giant city, which I've always wondered because it's like, yeah, a lot of places, like a lot of clubs are like, yes, Netherlands is great, like it's a great country, and yes, of course it is. But I think like usually what I constantly like, I know that I ask myself, it's like, okay, so how come other countries aren't like replicating this model if it was so successful for the Netherlands? Like, how come other people in other countries are not sort of like doing the same? But this explains that because sometimes I also wonder, like, I think I don't know, it's just because of the specific like set of circumstances that made it possible, basically. So I think it's a little bit unfair when people are like, oh, the Netherlands, like great public transport system, or all those bikes, like no one owns a car. Like it's great, it's fantastic. But it's like, yeah. But have you thought about like how, like what makes it possible for the Netherlands to actually, like for this to be possible over there? Because it's easier, right? Like you can say, oh yeah, they should do this in, I don't know, Oklahoma. But it's like, yeah, but the Netherlands and Oklahoma are like very different places. They are different, like their climate's not the same. They weren't designed in the same way. So there's like so many different factors that really go into something. Like you can just like replicate it because, oh, it worked over there, so let's just like do it ourselves. No, well that would be the dream, but in real life, like no, that's really not the case. And who's to say, like if you actually try to replicate like some of the things I've done when it comes to like city planning, and you try to like replicate this in probably other cities, it's not going to work. It's like, no, it doesn't work. I'm willing to bet that they probably have tried to implement like some of these things in other places, and probably it hasn't worked. And it's like, yeah, because again, there's always something that is a little bit different, and they do like just things are just different over there. And I'm not talking about like, oh, just like culturally people are different. No, it's just like the thing about the actual sort of like the space that you occupy in and the space that the city occupies is going to be different, because it depends on like in the place, like geographically that it's sort of like located. It's going to be different. I do think so. Again, it's like the Netherlands really does what this goes to show is that it's not just because you can say, oh, well, they were lucky. Yes, of course, they were very lucky into like having, for instance, like very fertile land, which is, yeah, good, incredible, amazing. And like they can't really, apparently was because of like the river, the canals that they did that made it like the soil was incredibly like, oh yeah, we have good soil. But okay, sometimes that's not possible. You got the short end of the draw in the stake in the draw. So it's like, no, I'm sorry, like my land is just not fertile enough. But I can like make it twist around. Like, well, let's brainstorm and think about like other sort of like advantages that we have that we can like exploit in order to like be successful. And I think that's really the key. Like I think a lot of places and a lot of not even just cities, I think a lot of countries do not really do that. And I think like that's where really the Dutch sort of like come in and saying like, well, they really are an incredible culture and incredible people because they made it the most of what they had. And look, it's incredible. It works for them. It has worked for them. It will continue to work for them. But I think it's more about like twisting the thing and like making it work for you. And I think that's where the example comes from. And not just specifically sort of like in trying to replicate what they've done. It's just like, no, let's think about like, yeah, okay, great, incredible, that worked for them. So let's now bring it up to us. Like, what can we do in order to like solve our problems or like to, I don't know, be better at this? Like we want to solve, I don't know, like these specific kind of like problems more modern society has or a specific city has. And it's like, let's think about more like the Dutch in the sense of like, how can we solve this problem? It's not just about like, oh, let's buy a lot of bikes. Let's make people like use less cars. No, that's really not how it works. But it's like, yeah, we have a problem. Let's try to figure it out in a way that I think the Dutch are like super successful in this is something that may seem maybe as a disadvantage or may seem as something like, oh, like this is a problem. Like we cannot overcome this. Like, no, they've done like, no, we can actually like work around this, which I think like that's where the incredible part comes in. I really do think it's funny that they mention like, besides all of this, the whole like, oh, the comparison of like with the micronations, like, yeah, those are not real countries. I know that real people live there, but like, let's be for real. Like, let's talk about the actual countries. They had like, I think it was like the number like 2 besides the Netherlands. I think it was like Belgium or something. But it's like, yeah, let's count those. Let's not count the others. Let's not count like the Vatican or San Marino or the others, Monaco. Like, nobody lives there. No real people actually live there. But I do think it's interesting, like the comparison with NYC. Because it really is like, oh, okay, I know that I knew beforehand that yes, the Netherlands is quite a very small country, but it had never occurred to me to think, and obviously if the Netherlands itself is like very small, like Amsterdam must be like the size of one single neighborhood. Like, and I'm probably not joking, maybe I'm exaggerating, but am I though? I don't know. Because like when they said the whole like, it's New York, I think up to like, I can't remember, it's like Montauk probably. up to like from Manhattan to like the Montauk part, the peak is like the one that's like the furthermost to like to the east. That's it, and that's the comparison between like the Netherlands and between Amsterdam and like the furthest city to the east to the Netherlands that you can find is probably like the same distance between Manhattan and Montauk, which is like, okay, that to me seems wild because it's like, okay, so what size, like, is Amsterdam the size of like Williamsburg? Like, what's up with that? I do really want to know because I know that they speak like, oh, square, like this is like 30 square miles, 50 square miles. I don't know. It's just like, it's never really like a good, I don't know how to like, especially like I can't really wrap my head around this. I need to know an actual, like, tell me how many blocks, tell me how many, like, I don't know, how many streets, how many people are actually living there, or like, tell me a similar space that it occupies. Because I now want to know, like, okay, so how big is Amsterdam? Because I'm thinking again, it's like it's tiny. It's the size of like it's the size of like a borough in NYC. Like either whether I said like Williamsburg, maybe it could be, I don't know, like the Bronx. I don't know. It could be anything. I don't think Long Island though. I think probably Long Island is probably a little bit bigger. But this is a little bit insane to me. It's like, okay, this really does put into perspective like how tiny the Netherlands and Amsterdam actually are. So it seems a little unfair that you're constantly seeing like, oh, how great like the Netherlands actually is, and how come you're thinking, oh, why can't we be like them? It's like, well, have you like noticed how many people actually live there? It's tiny. It's seriously, it's a tiny country. I don't even know how many people are living there, but I don't know. I say 5 million. I have no idea if it's 5 million, maybe 6 million, but I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit more, maybe it's a little bit less. But let's say around 6 million. I think that seems like a good, sort of like a good number to like the good ballpark. So it's like, okay, how many people then live in Amsterdam? If it's like 75, I think around 70% of people in the whole, like in the whole of the Netherlands actually lives in Amsterdam and the surrounding areas. Then it's like what that maybe let's say 4 million people live over there, and then the other like 2 millions are sort of like scattered in little population, little villages that have like, I don't know, 10,000 people, 20,000 people. Like it is a seriously very small country, which I know that I know, yeah, sure, the Netherlands is a small country, but it never occurred to me to actually think about what the reality is like for a place that is like that's like that small. So, you know, I think it's just easier, like they said, because if you have like a lot of people sort of like concentrated in just one single place, things are going to be easier. It's going to be like easier to like have more budget to begin with. Everyone pays more taxes, so of course like the money is sort of like, yeah, we have more money, so we are able to like work around this. And if you want, oh, we need a new, I don't know, we need a new like subway station. Like we're not going to put a subway station in the middle of nowhere just because, I don't know, no one's going to use this. Like maybe if like, I don't know, they probably have like, because to justify obviously the expense, if they have like, I don't know, less than 10,000 people actually will use this every day, it's probably not worth the expense. But obviously if you are in a populated place, it's like, oh, I don't know, 500,000 people like use this every day. It's like, oh no, then we have to do this. So we have to like make this efficient, and we have to like work on this. So I think that's really where the difference comes in. Although I think like the Netherlands also has like a good, like, I'm talking specifically about like the transport system. I think they have as well like a good transport system in like other little villages. But I think again, it's just like it's less people in general, and fewer people makes it like easier to actually control and to do all those things and to plan ahead. So I think like, yes, of course they're organized, they're incredible, mad props to them, but still, it's like what they said. It's because the Netherlands is built in a particular way of the land, of the layout, of because historically and geographically, like it works for them. But I don't think it's fair to just say like, oh yeah, like let's do this, let's replicate it, because I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna rethink like every single time that I'm like that I've thought of, like, you know what, maybe we should be more like Netherlands. Yeah, sure, of course, but you know, like in theory, but not just like replicate the system exactly, because again, it works because they are tiny. And I'm gonna look up how actual people live there, because it's like, maybe I'm completely wrong about this. Maybe it's like, oh no, 10 million people live there, but I'm pretty sure it's not even 10 million. It's probably a little bit less. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!